Good afternoon. My name is Scott Forcino. I'm an associate broker with Real Brokerage based in New York City, and I founded PlugIntro so real estate professionals can meet who they should know through introductions from their colleagues and their contacts. I have with me today Clarissa Chueire, a registered mortgage loan officer and broker who's a friend for a long time. I see the palm trees. She's now in Florida, and I know her from New York. So good afternoon, Clarissa.
It's good to see you, Scott, and you said my last name perfectly. That's a challenge.
Perfectly. I practiced. Well, maybe not everyone can know your last name, but they certainly know who you are. So tell us more about you and your background in the real estate world.
Well, I'm currently a mortgage broker. I've been in the mortgage business for about 20 years. I'm licensed in multiple states, but I do focus primarily on New York and Florida. I spent most of my career in New York. About 5 years ago, I started going back and forth between New York and South Florida. I saw an opportunity to relocate when COVID hit. So I've been in South Florida full time now for about a year and a half, but I still go back and forth between Westchester County, New York, and South Florida to maintain my business. I do business in both locations.
I see. When you want to get a blast of cold air, like I hear they're having right now, coming up, freezing cold.
Yes, I go for 24 hours and then I come back.
Right. Well, that's a natural, I call it a corridor between New York and South Florida. That's where I'm sure you have friends and colleagues, and that's really what's happening, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the influx of people going really south to Florida nowadays?
Absolutely. I have a lot of friends and actually a lot of business friends as well, including you, who over the years have made the move permanently to Florida. I actually took advantage of the influx and I put together what's called the relocation team, the Florida Relocation Team, with two coworkers, two business partners. One of them does title and closings in Florida and also a real estate agent. And we basically focus on providing a concierge service, basically a one-stop shop for people who want to relocate from from New York to Florida. And we help them throughout the whole process of getting a mortgage, finding a property, and closing. And the best part is that it's a free service. There's no extra fees.
That's great. But I mean, naturally, when you're making a big move like that, people, I guess maybe people are grown or they want a new life. They need to have comfort and know the people. Maybe we have mutual friends and they don't have to search for someone in a brand new location. So they have you and your colleagues.
Well, not only that, but it is a different market, so the way the transaction works in New York is not the same as in Florida. I'll give you one quick example why it's important to be connected with professionals that know the market. As you know, in New York, when you purchase a property, you do need to have a buyer's attorney, and there's usually a bank attorney and a seller's attorney. So you have three attorneys on the transaction. In Florida, there's really no attorneys necessarily involved. So we have a title company that handles the transaction, and not every title company has legal representation. So for a buyer from New York that doesn't know the rules, they may just be connecting with a title company that doesn't have a lawyer, which is fine if there's no problems with the deal. But if you run into a legal problem, it could get a little messy. Then they have to hire a third party to assist. So we help educate the buyer on the market as well.
Right. And I know the realtors work a little bit harder than New York because they're actually preparing the clients for closing more so than they do in New York.
Absolutely right. They're a lot more involved. Yes. And they have to stay on top of the mortgage contingency and all that.
Right. And what about the closing date? We always get scared that a closing date in Florida is real, correct?
Yeah. So basically in New York, there's a lot more flexibility. The closing date on the contract of sale typically reads on or about. And that gives both parties, the buyer and the seller, the flexibility to extend the closing date 30 days if necessary without being breach of contract. In Florida, it's pretty much a firm date. Not to say they can't get an extension, but it's not guaranteed. So we have to make an effort to close the deal on time or to express up front if it's not doable so they can get the extension up front.
Wow. Yeah, there are some nuances. So how about, what's everyone been talking about, that really the rates, and how have you found from last year to this year, the increase in rate? I mean, how are you handling what buyers can afford and working in conjunction with realtors in that way?
So that's a good question. So last year rates hit about high sevens, I think was the highest I remember seeing. They have come down quite a bit. I would say in today's market, of course, it varies depending on the loan program, credit score, and so on. But rates are more in the low sixes and high fives. There are many tools in this market to help the client qualify. So if the realtor is having problems with the clients, wanting to purchase in this market, they should be aware that there are programs out there where we can do a buy down on the interest rate. And actually the seller can make a contribution towards that, where they pay a fee to reduce the interest rate for the buyer. And basically the buyer can get a rate that's below market, anywhere between 1 to 3% below market for the first 1 to 3 years, depending on the program that we do. So as an example, if the rate is 6%, they could get 4% the first year, 5% the second year, and then it goes to 6%.
Now, how do you educate realtors to educate buyers and sellers, because you don't have direct contact? Am I correct? I mean, what's the connection between you two to give those agents that opportunity?
I'm very involved with the agents actually on my transactions. As soon as my clients are working with an agent, I typically introduce myself, and I like to educate them about the transaction. But if you mean just reaching out to agents in general,
no, I mean to say the education and the collaboration to make these opportunities, come to fruition.
We have to work closely with a real estate agent, because this is something, let's say they're listing a property, right? It's something that would have to be discussed and negotiated with the seller upfront prior to listing the property. They will be giving a concession from their own funds from the sale of the property towards buying down their rate. And that's a great marketing tool that they can, advertise with the listing, that pretty much the listing comes with a specific rate that's below market. And that helps move the listings as well.
Interesting. Wow. I mean, because people who are still drunk on 2021 rates or values may say that the seller may say, I don't want to pay anything towards the buyer's closing costs because nobody helped me. I don't want to help any. They may think it's a price reduction, but really that it could help them.
Well, we're in a different market now. So if this was a year ago, we really weren't seeing many concessions. There were bidding wars. I mean, South Florida was even worse than New York. You could have 20 buyers bidding on a property. If it wasn't a cash deal, it was less likely it would get accepted. It was definitely a seller's market. Now the market is shifting a little bit. When their interest rates went up, people are not offering $100,000 over asking anymore. We're seeing more offers closer to the asking price. So this is a good market for buyers, even though the rates are still higher than what they were a couple years ago. Number one, they can do a buy down and get the rate lower. They can negotiate more with the seller because there's not as many buyers now. So there's more room to negotiate this kind of transactions. So it would be beneficial to purchase now. Many people are waiting around for the next rate drop. If the rate drops again, there's going to be tons of buyers looking at the same time and more competition. Right now, you can do a buy down, secure the property, and if the rates do come down 6 months from now, you can always refinance and drop the rate. But at least there's more negotiating room with the sellers now.
Yeah, that's a really important point to let people know, because you hear about people have this belief that the rate is coming down, you can wait, but the sellers are not reducing their prices nationwide.
Right. I mean, I would say in South Florida, we are seeing the properties staying on the market a little bit longer now, Scott. I would say like 3 to 4 months versus before it was like 1 or 2 days. So I don't want to say I'm seeing concessions across the board, but I'm beginning to see them both in Florida and New York, a little bit here and there. So there's definitely, if the agent is aware of the tools and they can negotiate that with the seller, we can definitely, make a deal that makes sense for all the parties involved.
Yeah, that's impressive. So let me ask you, I've known you personally for a long time. We know many of the same people. I know you've been held in high regard by the realtors in our county and beyond. And I know you're heavily networked. I mean, so what's been your usual approach to reaching realtors and providing them value, other than really, I know you're good service, but what's been your kind of secret to getting ahead with them?
Been a combination of a few different things, and as you know, I'm very active on social media. That does build, brand awareness. I use that as an educational tool. Also, this virtual platform that you and I work with together, that's one way I can get in front of the realtors and other professionals to educate them about what's happening in the market, open up questions, and also give them the opportunity to promote their business to other professionals. Yeah. That's one thing that they, not other loan officers or mortgage brokers are not doing. Aside from things, obviously I'm a mortgage broker. I have access to multiple lenders. We can do loans that the big banks cannot do. But aside from that, in the creativity that we use in the marketing properties with the realtors in the way that we described, they also have access to this platform where they can promote themselves and provide educational content to an exclusive group of professionals, including lawyers, contractors, home inspectors, appraisers, and educate them about themselves.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I remember towards the end of 2022, the authorities were saying that the word for 2023 is truly collaboration. The professionals must collaborate. The buyers and sellers must collaborate. It really can't be adversarial. You really almost can't compete to get the deals done. We didn't know the rates were going to go down like they have a bit in the last several weeks or months. So people are really, really inventive and interested in each other's success. In a transaction like you described, if the seller wants to assist in specifically buying down an interest rate, not just closing costs, because that's a big vague term, but if a seller thinks that they'd rather assist the buyer in getting the lowest rate possible instead of throwing money away on a price reduction, but that's a complete waste and it doesn't help anyone, then that makes that property have a lower rate and it makes it more competitive and makes it easier for the person to buy. And you know what? That's where we all want to get to, the finish line.
Absolutely. And they're offering something unique. If they're trying to decide between that property and another one, now they have an incentive.
Right. And, that to me is the real transactional world. But then the business networking world, where we see social media every day, and a lot of that makes sense for brand awareness and visibility. However, you gave good information. I know you have so much more. It's my personal belief. That's why I formed this PlugIntro platform, that local business media, where you select your intended audience of people that you respect and think that can reciprocate, and in addition, bring in members who can benefit too. It's not really broadcasting. It's not really competing. On social media, I see realtors compete all day long for people's attention. I see lenders compete. They say the same thing. That doesn't reach anyone, and it's certainly, other than the information contained, which people can get elsewhere, it doesn't give anyone a chance to promote themselves. I think that's where we're going, where you're kind of choosing your own tribe. You're deciding you want to work together. You want to include others that can benefit. And I think smaller now is better. Trust is under attack. All the money in the real estate industry, lending, title, is putting the consumer in touch with a provider. Look at Quicken, look at Rocket, all these other places, but they're not you. They can't assist. They're not brokers. They don't have access to all the programs. But the young people are thinking they could press a button on their phone and get a loan. So it's more important that we trust each other and really give back and are more important to each other.
Absolutely. Well said. Yep. Yeah,
it's an exciting time too, because there going to be a fallout. I mean, what have you heard about a fallout from the lending industry? Are loan officers no longer re-upping their license? Are they getting out of the business?
We did see a lot of that, actually. So yeah, when rates went up, unfortunately, some loan officers, they tend to focus on the refinance business, which makes their business very cyclical, right? So when rates drop, they're busy. If they're not out there working with realtors and lawyers to really focus on the purchase business, they're more likely to fall out when the business slows down. But definitely we saw a lot of loan officers leave the business when rates went up.
Yeah. And
which is good. We have, true professionals left and, that have built a solid business and is focusing on collaborating, as you said, with other professionals to make sure that we're servicing the purchase market primarily.
Right. That's where you have to be. And I see too often at networking events or at functions or conferences, the lenders are really just chasing agents. And sometimes they don't even know who they're chasing. They're just competing elbow to elbow. Whereas in this case, someone like yourself, who's well regarded and respected, if you have the opportunity to offer agents something that they need, you don't have to chase. They really are interested in working with you. And I'll tell you what, I ask lenders almost every day, what do they provide agents? And the answer is basically, I've never gotten a good answer. They don't provide. They may offer something. They'll certainly accept your referral, but it's been too often a one-way street. So now you have the opportunity to give back in a better, bigger way than others with your real estate professional colleagues and make the realtor more important than they otherwise could be. Other realtors are not getting introductions to people on a weekly basis, but through your efforts, they now will, which I think is amazing to turn the tables even at this late in our careers.
Right, absolutely. And it's really a virtual way to really connect more. As you said, social media is there's so many people out there, so many agents, and half the time we're just building awareness and a brand, and there's really not enough education being given on those platforms.
Right. I mean, the phrase seller's concession, we go back, that was a 90s thing. That wasn't that wasn't done. Nobody gave anything. And now I personally think that every deal should have one. If an appraisal supports it, why not help buyers get to the finish line?
Absolutely. Yeah. You remember the days in New York when we both lived in New York? At one point, we had it on every transaction when the market was very strong. Yeah.
Buyers were guided. I remember lenders would be at open houses explaining the opportunity. And, it really, in New York, it's much worse where there's mortgage tax. So that could add, if they're in the 5 boroughs, that's a huge cost.
You're right about that. It should be an easier thing to negotiate in other states because the closing costs are lower as compared to New York. But I agree with you. I think we're now that things are shifting, we should be going back to, suggesting that on the transactions.
Yeah. And you're also talking about happier customers. You're talking about an easier sale and an easier purchase. I mean, if in a normal setting, do buyers want to come up with a lot of money? It could be what, 5, 6, 7% of the deal could be their title insurance premiums, their taxes, the balance on the mortgage due. I think that's through education and fun education. That's the power of this opportunity we have now to reach people. Years ago, I remember I got a BlackBerry and it got me out of the office for the first time. And that was a long time ago. But now you're able to be virtual everywhere and in a fun way and even in an entertaining way.
Right. With palm trees behind. Like me.
So tell us more about the Relo functions and the events with your team, and what's coming up and what are the possibilities?
So we're working on an event coming up, and I hope to see you there. It's on March 30th. We're hosting a Florida Relocation Networking. It's our second event. It's going to be a white party. I wish we could open it to the public. It's going to be invitation only, but if we don't reach capacity, we will open it to prospects who are interested in either relocating to Florida or even real estate investors that are local looking for real estate opportunities such as Airbnbs and fix and flips. Those are the kind of professionals we're looking to network with. It will be on March 30th from 6 o'clock to 8:30. And we're probably going to have something after for those of you who can't make it. We'll meet at the Bend or have an after party after.
Right. That sounds great. And we talked about sessions and webinars where I think I was always watching this in the industry where the professionals were kind of like the wolves and the parties were kind of the sheep, where they didn't mix except in a transaction. I've heard people say they want to be their realtor for life. I think Ashley said that. And others who should stay more in touch, like your accountant, like your dentist, because you have referrals that you may want to give. And you really, yes, you're living in your home, but there's so many people that could be introduced mutually, reciprocally for your benefit. It's not just meet, close, goodbye.
Right. No, you're right about that. Accountants, financial planners, insurance agents, there's a wide list of professionals that we can all network together. Absolutely.
Yeah. I believe strongly in the power of loose connections. You meet people that you never even knew you meet. So that's the biggest problem we all have is we don't have enough people to speak to. And now through social and local business media, you can meet more and more people. But instead of asking, you could provide something that really is what we need going forward. There has to be trust and referrals. It makes me crazy always when people are trying to be found on the internet, and you may be found by strangers who don't know you, don't trust you, where if someone says work with Clarissa, it's a done deal. You know that it's going to be lightning fast response, professional information and opinion. And if you don't have the information, you'll get it like that. Plus, I know who you affiliate yourself with, top pros. But imagine dealing with some call center in another state or another country.
Yeah, unfortunately, because everything became so virtual with COVID, that's the direction things are going. But yes, we have to go back to basics. And that's really the best way to get a recommendation. Absolutely.
Yeah. To make a big move like that. So what do you see you do work in the city, right? In Manhattan and the boroughs?
Absolutely. So I'm licensed currently in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Florida. So I'm not restricted. I can do loans in any part of those states. I'll be getting my license in California as well soon.
Right. So there's a great opportunity to reach realtors everywhere as, I guess, the preferred referral partners. And make sure that they're aware that we're not really asking for anything. That I think it's really important to give first and don't keep score. And I applaud you for taking advantage of a program because we have this turnkey solution with a staff. Now, let me just say, I don't think people work on their business every single day. I mean, people might be ashamed if the true amount of work they put on networking and prospects would be pretty low. And that's pretty embarrassing. We've all, I think, been guilty of it when your life is out of balance. You may not give any attention this week or this month to gaining new clients or new relationships.
Right. That's a good point. But, it makes it a lot easier when it's done virtually, as you said. I mean, we all log in at least a couple of times throughout the day. You can actually nurture the relationship with more frequency as well.
Yeah, you can. You can, but people schedule it needs. I don't think many people have a system or a method in place that works while you're sleeping. More and more people can learn that you exist and that you're there to help. That's where I think, I hate to tell you, that's where really the technology is going. And for people like us who believe in making a mark locally and serving those people who can benefit both transactionally and professionally. I mean, that's where this really is going. And then I think people are going to surge. And it doesn't have to be a seasoned person. You could have a brand new loan officer join you without any real knowledge. They could be really actively giving benefit to others. And then when the intelligence is needed, they come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good start. So you want to tell us any more? Or what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes. So I do want to let realtors know whether you're in New York or in Florida. I am also offering to do a free seminar about social media in their offices, just to educate them how to promote their businesses on different platforms. So if you're interested in setting that up with me, you can reach out to me via email. My email address is Clarissa with 2 S's at grcmortgage.com. If anybody's interested in attending our Florida relocation party on March 30th, if you are a local investor, a developer looking for real estate opportunities in South Florida, or if you're looking to relocate from anywhere, really, it's not restricted to New York, to South Florida, please reach out to me and let me know if you're interested in attending.